Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. It's Saturday, so that means one thing, the weekly recap. Take a look at the cases that were priority in our reporting. Have a wonderful week. Hope you enjoy it.
First, the prosecutors in the Scott Peterson case are not going to pursue the ultimate punishment. For those of you who do not recall, Scott Peterson was convicted of the deaths of Lacey Peterson and their unborn son, Connor Peterson, back in 2004. Now, both Lacey and Connor disappeared on Christmas Eve of 2002. The case has gone up and back through the appeal process, and the case was reversed as it related to the death penalty. And the Supreme Court said, but you have another shot. Originally, the prosecutor said that they were going to pursue the case against Scott Peterson to make sure that he received the death penalty again. Now, the prosecutors are walking that back, saying that they have spoken to the family, done their compliance with the Victims' Rights Act, and now they've decided they're not going to pursue that. It's simply too emotional and too difficult for the family. Understand that's what is going to take place in this particular case. Scott Peterson is now 48 years old, and they would spend the next 30 years still trying to put him to death. Now, this case still has legs in the sense that a court still has to hold a hearing on the alleged misconduct of a juror to see if she, in fact, was not truthful and would result in a new trial. And we'll just have to wait and see how that goes.
Next on the docket, a hearing has been set in the Lori Vallo matter. The hearing is now set for June 16th at 9 a.m. And this is a hearing to determine whether Lori Vallo is fit to proceed. As you may recall, their matters have all been stayed. Both the old cases that she has, remember she has the lying to police officers, not a big deal, then the concealment of evidence, and obviously then the first-degree murder charges. She was not advised last week because of a motion that was filed, and there was a finding by a psychologist who concluded that Lori Vallo is not competent to proceed. Well, now according to the Idaho Criminal Procedure, Section 18-212, a determination of fitness of a defendant to proceed. Well, they're going to have this hearing, and it's going to be in a couple of weeks like we talked about. Now, normally, if neither side contests the findings, then the person goes off to the Department of Human Services, or what they call it there in Idaho, and they basically try to restore an individual to competency. Usually it involves medications. I've seen situations where medications weren't going to work, where this individual was so delusional that the whole world was kind of out to get him, that basically they said, this guy can never be restored. And in Colorado, we have this thing that after, I think, 3 reviews, if it's not going to be restored, you just kind of call it quits. Don't think that's going to happen in this particular case. At this hearing, the defendant, since they're the moving parties, is going to have to bring in the psychologist to enter her report into evidence, and the prosecution will then have an opportunity to cross-examine the psychologist, as well as to present any other information that they deem is appropriate. Now, pursuant to the statute, all proceedings are stayed except as it relates to determining whether somebody is competent to proceed. And the court, Judge Boyce, is going to have to make this determination as to whether Lori Vallo is not competent, or is she feigning? Did she somehow dupe the psychologist into believing that she is not competent? That will be subject to cross-examination. What's going to be interesting in here is that in Idaho, it doesn't appear as though they get to have one more evaluation. So the state will more than likely have to hire their own expert, see what information was gleaned from the report from the defense, and see what, if any, opinion can be made as to whether it's competent or not competent. Now, I've also said this before. It's always the crazy ones that don't want to go to the mental health hospital. Okay. Had lots of clients go, hey, I think I'm not competent. I'm hearing voices. Oh, really? You want to go down to the mental health institute to be evaluated? Yeah, kind of slow my case down. Okay. Yeah, not doing it because you're basically telling me you're faking it. It's when you have real concerns about a client's mental health, thinking that maybe they're super secret agents, things like that, and they believe it, that they are, and you check it out and they're not, then you have to raise competency. And it's always the ones that are truly not competent that don't want to go and be evaluated. So I would be very curious to see, was it Mark Means that raised this issue, or was it somehow Lori Vallo that came up with? Normally, my experience is if someone's not competent to proceed, they're not competent to proceed almost immediately from when you meet them, hence the reason why they're arrested. However, there seemed to be no indication for the last year that Lori Vallo somehow was not competent to proceed. It's going to be interesting. We'll bring it to you live.
Please go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up for a background subscription service. You'll be happy you did. If there's anyone out there you were ever curious about what was in their background, now is the time to do it. If you're going to get involved with somebody, now is the time to do it. When you go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, you put in the name, literally millions of public records are searched, and a report is generated. And it's going to give you a report. If they have multiple social media accounts, you're going to find it. If they have multiple phone numbers, multiple email addresses, it's going to be found. And more importantly, you're going to get information regarding criminal history. Hopefully the person you're searching has none whatsoever. But if it's there, it's going to be found. You're going to get everything you'd want to know, whether you're going into business or whether you're going into a personal relationship. You're going to be able to find out the information you want to know. So go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up today. You'll be happy you did.
Derek Chauvin doesn't want to go to prison. As we all know, Derek Chauvin was convicted regarding the death of George Floyd. He was actually found guilty of 3 counts at trial. However, those counts will all merge. The parties have submitted what's referred to as a sentencing or mitigation brief. And both sides of that case basically get to lay out their argument for the court to consider what the court should do at sentencing. Well, this particular case, not surprisingly, neither side agrees on what should take place. The prosecutor wants a 30-year sentence. Derek Chauvin, through his counsel, is requesting a lengthy and strict probationary sentence and basically a credit for time served type of sentence. So what arguments is Derek Chauvin making on his behalf? Well, like I said, he wants probation, time served. Why? Well, his attorney makes this case that, well, basically he is part of a broken system, but he can still be an asset to the community. He also notes that, hey, Derek Chauvin's never been in trouble in his life. He's 44 years old. And basically what this amounts to is someone that was going to do well if granted the privilege of probation. The fact that, yes, he was found guilty of 3 crimes, but they'll actually merge. And he does look at spending up to 40 years. The prosecution is saying 30, and he's asking for probation. Hopefully, this is an example of ask for the world, maybe receive a continent. The defense is more than likely hoping if I ask for probation and the prosecutor asks for 30, maybe I'll only get 10 or 15. Don't forget, Derek Chauvin also has that little federal matter that could also result in a very lengthy prison sentence. The next reason that the defense argues for a probationary sentence is that they argue that any sentence for Derek Chauvin that basically results in a prison sentence will result in long-term damage. Specifically, they cite the fact that Derek Chauvin will be a target while he is in prison. Right now, he's held in a high-security prison, and he is being basically held in solitary confinement, which would be more than likely his living situation while he would be in custody so that he doesn't get taken out in prison. And we're not talking out for a date. Maybe we are, but the reality of it is, at the end of the day, he is in great danger. The defense also cites the fact that, hey, he's been cooperative. When he was released on bond, he showed up. when he was in court, he was polite and cooperative, doesn't cause any disruptions. Well, I wouldn't give a whole lot of credence to that because that's what a defendant and their attorneys are supposed to do while they're in court. We'll see what the court's going to do. Remember, the court found that there were aggravating factors in this particular case. I don't see the court granting a probationary sentence. I think what the court will do is not give 30 years, but note the fact that Derek Chauvin is facing violation of civil rights charges in federal custody, which could result in a much lengthier sentence. We'll have to wait and see. Let me know. Do you think that Derek Chauvin can get probation, or do you think he should get the 30 years that the prosecutor is asking for? Samuel Olsen. That's right. That's the 5-year-old that went missing. And I think yesterday I said that the prime suspect, which was Teresa Balboa, was a stepmother. Well, she's in fact like the girlfriend, but apparently they're engaged. So anyway, if I misspoke, for all those people that corrected me, you were right. I was wrong. And we will call ourselves out when we mess it up. Anyway, for those of you who do not know, Samuel Olsen is the Houston boy who was reported missing on May 27th. And now authorities believe that he may have been deceased prior to that. Now, police have released some of the charging documents related to Teresa Balboa, the girlfriend of Samuel's biological father. And during the police investigation into Samuel's disappearance, a roommate reportedly told investigators that he returned home after a phone call and found the child, whose 6th birthday was actually on Saturday. The child was reportedly bruised and unresponsive while he was laying on a bed. The roommate allegedly said he and Balboa moved Samuel's body to a bathtub and left him in there for 2 days. Now, according to court documents cited by police authorities, that the duo then wrapped the boy up in a plastic sheet and placed him in a tote to take him to a storage unit, which is located in Webster, Texas. On Monday, amid the search for Samuel, another male friend received a call from Balboa asking for help. Authorities put this information in the affidavit. The friend allegedly told investigators that he picked Balboa up and the two drove to the storage unit. When they were there, they retrieved a plastic container with a foul odor and transported it to a motel room in Jasper, Texas. Police were directed to that motel room after receiving an anonymous tip via Crime Stoppers. In a news conference on Wednesday, the authorities said that they had found the body, which they believed to be that of Samuel, but they have to have that confirmed by the medical examiner. Balboa, who previously claimed that Samuel had been taken from her, she purported from her Houston apartment, from the biological mother and someone who she said was identified as a police officer. Well, Balboa was arrested when they found the body at the motel, and she was there. Now, Samuel's father, Dalton Olsen, has not been charged, but he is continuing to face questions from the police. Police have stated that Samuel's biological parents have shared custody of the child. Samuel's mother, Sarah Olsen, stated that she is obviously heartbroken and that she misses her baby. She also claims that she had not seen him in some time. So this sounds like a very tragic situation. Obviously, it takes place too many times in communities across the country. As I told you, I've been here in Houston, so I've been doing some little asking of questions to see if anybody has any information down here. I saw one of the local news reports, and they went to the apartment that was occupied below where Samuel lived. She was on the phone with this news report stating that she had heard a child yelling. In fact, she even called her mom, and then on the news report, she picked up the phone, called her mom and said, "Hey, Mom, remember that night I called you?" And they said, "It sounded like someone was beating that little boy." Well, yeah, he's now deceased. So oftentimes the case in child abuse cases, people hear something, they don't say anything. And then it's a question of why didn't somebody say something when it wasn't obvious at that time? A tragedy. We'll see how things shake out, whether it's just the girlfriend of the biological father or whether biological father or these roommates are going to be charged with something else. We'll have to wait and see. All right, that's all we have for you today. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk, and we'll be back in the studio next week.